All right, take two. Safety first. Helmet is securely fastened. And I think I've turned the noise canceling off, but I don't really know. I won't find out until I do a closer look. Take a closer look at this. Let's find our way out of here. Man, I can remember a time when none of this stuff was here. I spent... oh, I can't get out this way. That's unfortunate. Gosh, that's a nice truck. None of this stuff was here when I was growing up in Rio Rancho. Well, I grew up in Albuquerque, but I spent a part of my childhood here living with my grandmother. And my great-grandparents were actually some of the first people to establish Rio Rancho when it was first being built. So I think the history of it, and I'm not too sure, maybe you guys can tell me, is that when they built, they started building Rio Rancho, they were shipping a bunch of people out here from like New York and Chicago and stuff like that, retirees, because they were selling homes, you know, pretty cheap. And my great-grandparents were some of the first people to come out here and establish Rio Rancho. I don't know what year that was. I think it might have been like 78 or 79, 1978, 79. I mean, right around the time I was born. And my grandmother came out here in 1983. And then my mother, she came out in 1990. So I've lived in Albuquerque for about 35 years, I guess, 36 years. So I'm pretty sure that when I do some motovlogging on my BMW, when I take some longer trips, it'll probably sound a little bit better because my Ducati has a I can barely even say that word. It's acropathic exhaust on it. And honestly, like, I mean, you guys are probably going to roast me in the comments for being a writer and not knowing how to actually pronounce a performance exhaust name. But this bike came with it already installed. And that's just a hard word to say. Acropathic? I think that's it. A lot of riders like to use it because it's what they use in, like, professional riding, you know. This Ducati here, though, was actually a replacement for one that had gotten stolen back in 2014. And it was an interesting thing with that bike specifically. I mean, like, it was destined, I guess, to be ruined, I suppose, because when I got it, like, so this is like my fifth bike, I think. My first one was Yamaha Seika 2. I think it was a 93. I don't remember. But that was my first bike, and I bought it off of a friend of mine. It's one that I learned on. And it got stolen back in 2005. But that's okay. I mean, like, I'm not saying that, you know, a stolen bike is a good thing, but it needed a lot of work, man. I didn't know anything about bikes back then, and there was a lot of stuff on it that needed to be, like, fixed and replaced and all that. That guy's got a little dirt bike. Let's go catch him. So, I mean, like, I was so naive and so young, dude, to where, like, I mean, the bike was pretty much ruined anyway, and I guess this guy that really, really wanted it, you know, ended up buying it from the dude that stole it from me. And then they took it over to a local shop, and they got it fixed up and things like that or whatever. And what happened was the shop that they were at knew that that guy was a known thief. And so both of them were over at the bike shop, and then they called the cops. The cops showed up. The thief actually got away because he was on a big boy Busa. But the guy that bought it from the guy that stole it from me, he didn't get away. And so they caught him, and about 2 weeks later, I get a call saying, hey man, we got your bike, from the cops or whatever, and I went to go look at it, and sure enough, it was my bike. So I had it for about 6 months, but I didn't work very far from where I was living at the time, so I didn't really ride it much, because there was a lot of money that had to be poured into it, and I just didn't have it at the time, so I had it parked at my apartment. Dude, I hope this thing isn't like shaking. I hope there's like a rock steady mode that maybe I forgot to put on there or something, because I remember looking at one of the videos I had before and it was all messed up. But anyway, at the time I was working at an auto parts store, and I had my Seiko for sale. This guy comes in and he's all like, hey man, you're the one with the Seiko, right? And I said, yeah. And he says, you still selling it? And I said, yeah. So usually when something like that happens, you just kind of sell a bike, a used bike, especially one that looks like it's straight out of Mad Max. You sell it for like $1 a cc, and it was a 600. So I told him, I was like, dude, I'll sell it to you for $600. And he's like, okay, cool, man. So he showed up a couple of days later, and was looking at it, and he recognized it right away. He's all like, oh, there's this, and there's this, and there's this. And I kind of looked at him, and I was all like, hey man, are you from Michigan? And he says, yeah. And I said, I know who you are. You're the guy that bought it from the guy that stole it from me. And I sold it back to him, which I thought was pretty interesting. That guy paid for that bike twice. I guess he really wanted it. But he bought it once from the thief, and then he bought it back from me, the actual owner of it, a second time. So that was really interesting, I thought. That's the story of my first bike. And then later, another interesting story with my Ducati, because that was the second bike that I got stolen. And the interesting thing with that one was because the bike I had been in between the Seika and my Duck, my first Ducati, was a Suzuki Katana 600. That was like a 96 or something like that. I don't remember, but that bike, dude, was like straight up a warhorse, man. Like I had that sucker for 10 years. I rode it almost every day through the winters. And that's really where I cut my teeth becoming a rider, was on that bike. So one day I was going to get it serviced. I went into my local shop, my favorite shop, High Velocity. Say what's up to Greg Seaford if you guys are ever in Albuquerque. That guy is the best mechanic in the city. He knows his shit. All right, so go pay him a visit if you ever need anything, work done. I'm talking about like complicated stuff. If you want to rebuild engines or carburetors or whatever, that's the guy to go see. But, of course, if you're just going to replace spark plugs or change the oil, you can do that yourself. But anyway, I walked in there to get some plugs and some oil one day, and he had this Ducati that was in pieces, and it was on his display floor. And I walked up to him and I was all like, hey man, whose Ducati's that? And he's like, it's mine. I says, you selling it? And he says, yeah. And by this point, I had been riding my Suzuki for 10 years. And I was looking to get something new. And it looked like it was straight out of Mad Max also. It didn't have any fairings on it. There was a bunch of broken stuff. Like, it was cool though. I loved it. So I said, will you sell it to me? And he says, yeah, absolutely. It's like, since you've been a loyal guy for a long time, I've serviced this bike, I rebuilt it, my Suzuki and all that. I'll sell it to you for $4,000. Okay, now keep in mind, this was a 2006, and this at the time, I think it was 2013, around there. Like it might have been a little bit earlier than that, maybe 2012. And this 2006, it was a 620 Monster, and it only had like 3,000 miles on it, and he's gonna sell it to me for $4,000. I was all like, dude, that's a slam dunk, straight up. So at the time, I didn't really have a surplus of money. I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I was waiting for, like, tax returns. You do the whole ghetto thing where you buy half a set of rims with the tax return because you're waiting for them to come in, whatever. I'm just doing silly comparisons here. But I came in and I put some money down on it, like I think of like $1,000, and then what I did was I would just come in every couple of weeks when I got paid, and whatever extra money I had, I would go give it to him, and he kept a record, of it until I got it paid off. And then the day finally came after he put it all back together and all that stuff, and I was able to ride away with it, which was nice. Like I was like, dude, I got my brand new bike and I loved it so much. It was such a great thing, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So the backstory with this bike, and the reason why it was in pieces at his shop, was because it was a stolen motorcycle. Well, I mean, at least I don't think it was. Like I don't quite remember the whole backstory. Greg did kind of tell me about it, but the dude did have the keys, and there was something wrong with the wiring harness or something like that, or whatever. I don't know where the guy got the bike or whatnot, but anyway, he's on the phone with him, and he says, yeah, I can fix this for you, but it's going to cost you $800. And the guy was like, I'm not paying that kind of money for this bike, and this is a bunch of bullshit, and all whatever, and I guess gave Greg like a really hard time about it. So he was like, okay, man, well, if that's the way you feel about it, then come get your shit. Come get your bike out of my shop. And the dude never showed up. Like, he never showed up to claim his bike. So I don't know if he owned it or if it was stolen or what, but I don't have any like fathomable reason why the guy wouldn't come and get it. So he just left it there, and Greg put it back together. He put a mechanic's lien on it, salvage title, and then he sold it to me for $4,000. Well, here's like the one cool thing about it, is that when I did come in to make my first payment down on it, I was going to put $1,000 down, and this was about 2 weeks after we agreed that he was going to sell it to me. I came in, I brought in my first payment, and he's like, you know what, man? It's like, I'll sell it to you for $3,500. And I was all like, man, you were just the coolest guy in the world. Like, you just made me very happy, and that's super, super awesome of you to do. And this is where, things like loyalty pay off. And he's still my friend to this day. As a matter of fact, actually, he hasn't worked on my Ducati yet, but he did do a big tune-up on my BMW, because it sat for like 2 years. Like, I was riding this, and my Beamer sat in storage for 2 years. Oh, bumps. And then when he got it out of storage, or when I got it out of storage, it needed a tune-up, and he worked on it for me, which was cool. Mr. Police Officer there is checking my plate to make sure that I'm all legit and everything. It's funny, like right when he passed me, I did the whole like cop warning thing. You tap the top of your head or whatnot. But anyway, so I'm getting off subject here, and that's what happens when I'm on a ride like this. My brain just kind of wanders. Sometimes it goes quiet, and then I just completely zen out. Every once in a while, I'll play like a song on the Cardo, and you hit that perfect song sometimes, and it just feels so good. And it's one of those things that you just can't really describe. You actually have to live it and experience it to feel that way. And nothing compares to it. I mean, there's never been any sort of artificial anything that I've ever had to no artificial, like, basically I've never taken any drug that's made me feel like that, is what I'm trying to get at. So anyway, getting back to that Ducati, I had it for a year, and was living at this place that wasn't like, the best neighborhood, type stuff, even though they were trying to revitalize it. Living in the war zone in Albuquerque, sometimes you're kind of just, you're not really, I wouldn't say forced to live there. But I mean, you know, sometimes you just have no choice because it's inexpensive, it's housing, you know, stuff like that, whatever. But it just wasn't really like the best neighborhood. So anyway, I had it for a year, and it had gotten stolen one night. And yeah, yours too, man. It looks good. I like it. I wish I had one. So I wish I had a dirt bike too, brother. Yeah. Okay, where was I? You know, that's the one good thing, dude, about this kind of life, man, is that everybody, like, knows everything. It's so good. It's so good. Everybody's always very friendly, you know, like, you can live these amazing experiences with a lot of different people, especially if you're like a long-distance motovlogger or something and you travel the country, you know, like, it's just super, super cool. The community, you know, amongst motorcycle riders is always a good one. Okay, so getting back to it, stolen motorcycle. I didn't hear anything from anybody for probably about a good couple of months, and I got a call from this detective one day. He's like, "Hey man, we found your bike," and I was like, "Oh shit." So this was like a while, like 3 or 4 months later. And he comes and he picks me up. He's like, "Hey man, you just got to go pay the towing on it." And I'm like, "All right, not a big deal. It's like $70-$80. But then again, you know, I was pretty strapped for cash, so that was kind of a lot of money at the time for me. And went down to the tow yard. I paid the towing on it. Jumped in the detective's truck, and he took me down to the impound yard. And we went and looked at it. Now, this is where it just blew my mind, but the only thing that was recognizable to me that was originally mine was the tank and the frame. Everything else had been completely stripped. They had removed the engine and replaced it with like a moped engine. They had taken the trees off the forks, and they stuck a straight pipe down there, and then they like attached this little moped wheel to it. The freaking brakes, dude, were like from a bicycle. I was like, what the hell is this thing? And like I said, the only thing that was on it was mine. That was mine, was the tank and the frame. So he asked me, he says, "Do you want to take it home?" And I said, "No." He says, "I don't blame you, you know." And then he goes inside for a little bit while I'm waiting in this truck. He comes back out and he says, "Well, you know, the good news is that we got an arrest. However, it wasn't the guy that stole it from me. It was another guy that was riding it. And the judge may order restitution, but, you know, that's probably not going to happen, because especially if somebody steals something like that, you know, or whatever." I don't know. Like, the guy wasn't going to pay for anything because he's probably some drug addict addicted to crack or fentanyl. Well, actually, I think meth was probably the biggest thing at the time, but I wasn't going to get any restitution from it. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to take it as a total loss. I think I only had liability insurance on it at the time, so, you know, I just pretty much ate it. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start over again. And I just thought it was funny because, you know, like, that bike, I suppose, was destined to be like where it ended up, you know, like in a scrap yard or in an impound yard, or who knows what happened to it. But the detective, he told me, actually, I skipped this part. He told me that I couldn't take it home anyway, because the parts that were in it, or that had been replaced, like the moped engine and all of that stuff, had been parts from another, like other stolen parts from other bikes. So I was like, well, I guess that was that. But you know, time goes on, and you know, I started my driving career, my professional driving career, a little bit later. You know, a couple years later. I think my Ducati got stolen in 2014. I started as a professional driver in 2016. So 2 years later. got out of a horrible 8-year toxic relationship, and got my Class A CDL and became a truck driver. So I did that for a little bit, and I wasn't really sure what I was getting into, you know, when it came to that kind of thing. But I did that for probably about 4 to 5 years, and it was good. It was good. I mean, I was able to make a lot of money, rebuild my life, and heal. You know, I always want to say, like, the Superman's Fortress of Solitude. That's kind of what it was. You know, with everything I had been through and all that, and I did it alone. You know, and focused on saving money and getting my life back together, and trying to become the person that I have become today. You know, and I mean, that's what's made me who I am. It's because I think I was isolated, and I had to face it, because when a man has to face his darkest night alone, he develops a sense of clarity and self-trust that just can't be taught. It's one of those things that you have to go through. And it was really good, you know. So I bought my BMW, like, not necessarily, well, yeah, it was kind of on impulse. I was like, you know what, I miss riding, I've got the money now. I think I was going through, like, a website at a couple of dealerships here in Albuquerque, and saw this sport touring BMW. It was a 2009, they wanted $6,800 for it, and I was like, okay, cool, man, I've got the cash. So I showed up at the dealership, and I looked at it, and I was like, okay, this is what I want. I want something that's for long distance. Jumped on it, did a little test ride, and it was perfect. And the reason why the guy traded it in was because I guess his wife was uncomfortable on it, so he got a Goldwing instead. 50,000 miles, a 2009 BMW 1200 RT, which is the one that the cops used to use. And I know 50,000 miles is kind of high, you know, but it's a BMW, man. That thing's going to last 250,000 miles or more. You know, German engineering, dude, it's just built to last 100 years. So I just paid cash for it. I just gave him $7,000, signed papers, and I rode off with it. And I had that one for like a good while. Rode it when I could, when I was back in town. But the one thing... And don't get me wrong, I mean, it's a fantastic bike. That bike is definitely my warhorse now. It's my champion. But it was boring, you know, like you're just kind of riding on it, you know, like you're just, I mean, like, it's great because it's comfortable. You can ride it all day, you know, but it's like you know, like, this is okay, I guess. It's just not very fun to ride. Let me downshift. There we go. It's just not very fun to ride. I mean, like, it is, of course it is, because it's a bike, you know, but it's not, like, exhilarating, you know. It's not, like, zippy and super fast or anything like that, but you don't really want to go super fast on those bikes anyway, but it's good. I mean, what I really do like about it is how stable it is. It's the boxer engine, so it's got like a very low center of gravity, and it's incredibly nimble for how big it is. It's like 750 pounds, something like that. It's a big bike. But I was like, you know what? I need something else. A different style, you know, like a different bikes for different things, you know. This one's my around town urban bike, you know. It's got a touring mode, it's got a sport mode, and it's got an urban mode. But the BMW, man, like, that sucker is gonna go to Mars, you know. And that was why I got it, for that purpose. Like, when I go long distance, if I'm gonna go up to Colorado or Arizona or something like that, or whatever, that's the bike I'm definitely going to take. And I'm pretty sure a lot of riders, a lot of enthusiasts out there will understand why I have two bikes. But anyway, here we are at work. This has been fun. And let's see if I can find a good place to park here. Well, sometimes, I don't like to take up a whole space. If I can find somebody else that's got a bike parked, I can usually share the space with them. What time is it? Oh, dude, shit, I'm late, man. I'm gonna fucking be late. I got like 6 minutes. I shouldn't have been fucking around. Alright, let's just park this thing and get the hell in there. Where was that spot? Alright, here we go. Just back in. Oh, you don't go forward and go back in. Alright. Okay, this has been fun. I gotta hurry. I got a whole 6 minutes to get into work. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.